Okay. It is now my pleasure to invite Israel's Minister of Diaspora Affairs, Mr. Amichai Chikli, who is responsible for strengthening global Jewish communities and their connection to the State of Israel. He previously served as a member of Knesset, where he focused on national security, Jewish identity, and international relations. Please welcome Minister Chikli. Minister Chikli, it's our pleasure to have you here today with us. You've been in the U.S. for about a week now, I suppose, and I think you're the busiest person in Miami, in Florida. I was trying to get a hold of you and your team, and it's nonstop activity for you. What have you been doing?
So, yes, it was a very busy week, Baruch Hashem, and we've started in New York, where we had a major meeting with Rabbi Amichai Hirsch, and a lot of rabbis who are coming from the more liberal parts of Judaism. I think Rabbi Hirsch is actually doing a revolution by trying to take the reform movement to a Zionist approach, and after October 7th, there is a chance to see a change in the liberal streams of Zionism and to bring them to be more close to Israel, to be more close to Judaism. And we are trying to assist Amichai Hirsch in this important mission. This was item number one. Second was meeting with Pam Bondi, Leo Tarel, Harmeet Dillon, the entire team. We need to say loud and clear, this administration has done more to combat anti-Semitism than any other administration in the history of the US. They are doing incredible things, going against the universities who failed to secure the safety of their Jewish students. We don't see the incumbents today as we saw during the war. We see deportations of radical Islamist supporters of Hamas. And the next stage is to collaborate, and that was on the agenda, to collaborate against the threat that is coming from the Muslim Brotherhood all across the US. And this is a leading force when it comes to anti-Semitism, organizations like CARE, AMP, SJP. So that is a mutual interest. Third, which I think is maybe the headline. My greatest concern when it comes to the Jewry of America, and the Jewry of America, of North America, the largest Jewish community outside of Israel, is the Jewish kids that don't get Jewish education. Only 5% of the non-Orthodox kids goes to Jewish day school. This is nothing. And this is a threat to the continuity of the Jewish people. This is a big issue. And after a pilot that we have done during the war, we had a very limited budget. We have decided to double by 10 the amount and to allocate 50 million shekels for Jewish education in North America. This is, I think, the largest amount that was allocated by any Israeli government in the history of the State of Israel to make sure that we have future generation to have Jewish education. So that is, in a nutshell, the week that we have had, and obviously this beautiful Shabbat with this huge community here in Miami. I want to thank the Falik family for the hospitality. ובאמת, תודה רבה.
Well, that's definitely the headline. You mentioned the Muslim Brotherhood, and we're now at this moment of time where the most intense physical fighting in the war is probably over, at least for now. Yet many people in the West still they don't fully grasp what we dealt with, what we're dealing with, the nature of this conflict, the nature of our enemies, if it's Iran, the Muslim Brotherhood, their backers, and the ideological and religious aspects of this conflict. So from your perspective, I wanted to ask you, what's the most effective way to address this gap in understanding? I know you have a distinct approach of how to deal with this issue.
Yeah, so first and foremost, my greatest concern is that unfortunately, at the same time that our allies here in the US are banning Muslim Brotherhood here in America, there's collaboration with the Muslim Brotherhood worldwide, meaning with Erdogan's Turkey, with Jolani's Syria, and obviously with Qatar. Qatar today is the capital of the Muslim Brotherhood. They are leading the PR war of the Muslim Brotherhood, and they are very effective, unfortunately. It's not a coincidence that they had now in Doha, Tucker Carlson is one of their main guests at this conference. There's a very intense effort by the Qataris to split MAGA and to conquer the hearts and minds of the conservative movement in America to become more aligned with Islamism. We are seeing Tucker saying that Hamas is not a terror organization, but a political movement. There's nothing wrong with Sharia law, etc., etc. That is regarding to Qatar. Qatar is whitewashing Jolani. Jolani, the founder of Al-Qaeda in Syria, a massacre of the Alawite, massacre of the Druze, now a great threat for the Kurds in northern Syria. And you see at the same conference in Doha, Christiane Amanpour from CNN, who is bashing Israel and demonizing Israel 24/7, and she's sitting with this jihadist, and she didn't even mention the word Alawites. She didn't even mention the term Druze or the Kurds. And you can see the hypocrisy of CNN, of people like Christiane Amanpour. But when it's Christiane Amanpour, this is one thing. We have a major issues not with Christiane Amanpour. The last is Erdogan. Turkey is divided. The entire opposition is in prison. Mayors, journalists, heads of opposition. Erdogan, he's one of the most prominent leaders of Muslim Brotherhood worldwide. Together with Syria, they are the #1 threat for the state of Israel in the coming years. And I hope that our allies in the US will understand that to form an alliance with these Muslim Brotherhood jihadists, even if they have suits, that's not a good idea.
What you're talking about is pretty overlooked sometimes if you follow just mainstream media. Well, I can tell you that personally, one development that genuinely surprised me after October 7th was the rise of what some people call the woke right, those voices on the American right, like Tucker Carlson, for example, whose entire set of beliefs doesn't really align with their perspectives on Israel and the war and Israel's enemies. They're always tough on border security, tough on crime, but suddenly when the worst criminals in the world cross a sovereign state's border to butcher civilians, they somehow side with them and not with Israel. So I'm curious, how do you interpret this phenomenon, and what kind of danger does it actually pose? Can we deal with it somehow?
First, I think that is the greatest danger for the future of America, for the future of Israel, for the future of Western civilization. Tucker has sold his soul to the devil. This is like the movie and the book, Lord of the Rings. What is the ring? Ring is power for the sake of power. Power for the sake of power. He used to be a conservative. He used to speak, and I was actually, I think, the only show I ever watched, not by chance, but I was going to watch, was the show of Tucker Carlson on Fox News. He spoke about the values of family, of faith, of nationalism, and I actually quite liked him. But it seems that due to financial interest, he shifted his ideology. And we need to understand what happened with Tucker in the past 2 years. It started with bringing people like Daryl Cooper, a Holocaust denier who claimed that the Nazis basically mercy the Jews in Eastern Europe. They didn't want them to starve, so they just shoot them. That is one of the most crazy Holocaust denial I've witnessed on a platform of millions of people. That's Daryl Cooper. He attacks us on the religion aspect, saying that Christianity and Zionism cannot work together. This is a complete lie, because the Bible is the foundation for Judaism and for Christianity, and the biblical values are the ones that needs to be empowered. And I think, and I'll jump to the strategy, the most important thing for us, for the Jewish community, for the state of Israel, is to form alliances with both Christians, evangelical Christians, Mormon Christians. We have shared values. The shared values are freedom. The shared values is the sacred of life. These values that are based upon the Bible are what unite also not just the Christian world and the Jewish world, but also the US, which was founded on the same set of principles and values. And also on the worldwide, we need to collaborate with conservative parties that share the views that we have.
Thank you for this. I want to ask you a bit about Israel.
Sure.
Like the US, the Israeli society is very much polarized at this point. We've seen it before the war, we've seen it throughout the war. And sometimes, just like here in America, it's in an unhealthy manner. Israelis are also experiencing some of the very similar trends that we're seeing playing out here in America. If it's distrust in state institutions, in mainstream media, for example, and so forth, global governance structures. So what would you say to people who care so deeply about Israel but are unsure as for how to read these social shifts, so changing dynamics within Israel? What would you say to them?
First, I think that after October 7th, it's unfortunate that we needed October 7th for that, but the situation is far better than previous to the war. What we have now in Israel is a process of elite replacement. There is a shift in the elite. It used to be secular, Ashkenazi, progressive before there was socialist elite. And today, the public generally is more traditional, is leaning more to the right. And you can see, by the way, through the new appointments for the head of the Shin Bet, David Zini, not with a tiny little kippah, but a true religious leader and commander from the IDF, who was, by the way, blocked in the IDF. But he was appointed to be the head of the Shirut, Baruch Hashem. And second is Roman Goffman. Roman Goffman, Ole Hadash from Ashdod, who made it to be the head of the Mossad. And I'm excited because what we are seeing is that what Avichai Ben Chaim called the Israel HaShniya, the second Israel, that was not part of these the leading forces of society, now they are the one that leads society. And for the old elite, this is a trauma, and they are frightening. I don't think that they should be terrified because we don't hate them. And this is a natural process, a natural change. And I think this is for the best, and we should be happy
Embrace
about
it.
Embracing that, yes.
So it's obviously difficult to ask someone to predict the outcome of Israeli elections. We're heading into an election year, so I won't...
Right-wing government, 100%.
Really?
100%.
I was about to ask you just how to read the current polls and just your perspective and headlines coming out of Israel, out of respect for those here trying to get a better understanding.
I think that the public is tired from the anti-Bibi sentiment. The public is tired from banning the largest political movement in Israel, which is the Likud. People are tired of that. That's one thing. And I think that there will be new forces will emerge that will forget about this philosophy, which is ridiculous and creating a lot of harm. And the second thing, people are also tired for some of the practices of the Haredi parties who disappointed us in their leadership. We want them to be much more connected. We want them to be much more in favor of bringing their kids to the army. And we want them to act, if they're in the government, not just as a sector who needs to take care of themselves, but to understand they are no longer a minority. And we need them to be an integral part of society. And to be an integral part of society, it means to share the military service generally, and to take care of everyone, and not just מה שנקרא עניי עירך.
Thank you so much for these important words, Israel's Minister of Diaspora Affairs, Mr. Amichai Chikli.
תודה רבה.
תודה רבה. And now I would like to call back to the stage two ladies who have been on the stage before throughout the day. First, Eliana Pazenstein, the International Desk Director of the Bimiamin Regional Council. And Eliana will next moderate the next